Good evening. On behalf of the Northeast Conference on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, I would like to welcome you to the fifth and last in our special webinar series on our 2021 conference theme, Finding Our Voice, World Languages for Social Justice. This evening's webinar is entitled, Using Digital Games to Create Communicative Activities about Social Justice Topics. This webinar has been generously sponsored by Wayside Publishing. Please visit waysidepublishing.com for more information about how Wayside can assist you with your remote teaching and learning needs. If you'd like to make a donation to help support our work, please visit nectfl.org/donate. My name is John Carlino, NECTFL Executive Director, and I will be hosting this evening's webinar along with Northeast Conference board members Leslie Gran and Debbie Espedia as our moderators. We are grateful to our presenter, Dr. Silvina Orsatti, a past NECTFL board member, for offering us her time and expertise. This webinar will be recorded, and a link to the recording will be posted to our website at nectfl.org/webinars as soon as it is available, most likely tomorrow, along with a copy of our handouts and a PDF of the presentation. This webinar is scheduled to last 1 hour with about 50 minutes devoted to the presentation. The remaining time will serve as Q&A with the presenter to answer your questions. Attendees are encouraged to submit questions during the webinar using the question feature of the GoToWebinar control panel on the side of your screen. Our moderators will organize these questions and share them with Sylvie as relevant and/or at the end, most likely at the end. In the event of technical difficulties, please remain connected as you are able. If the difficulties are on your end, please contact GoToMeeting customer support for assistance. If you're having difficulty with sound, click on Phone Call under Audio in the control panel and call in with the phone number provided on your phone. And now, please let me take this opportunity to introduce you to our presenter. Dr. Silvina Orsatti teaches Spanish language culture and foreign language pedagogy at the University of Pittsburgh Greensburg. She earned her EDD with an emphasis in language literacy and culture from the University of Pittsburgh. Her dissertation was Gamifying the Spanish Curriculum to Promote Motivation and Willing Communication in the College Level Classroom. Dr. Orsatti received the 2014 PSMLA Educator of the Year Award and the 2011-2012 NECTFL Sans Inc Mead Leadership Fellow Award. Sylvie, thank you for sharing your time with us. Welcome to the webinar. And just one more note to everybody, in your control panel, there is a tab called Handouts, and that's where you can access a Word and PDF version of the handouts that Sylvie would like you to have available as you're watching the webinar. Sylvie?
Hello, everybody. Thanks to NECTFL for inviting me to present, and to all of you for being here tonight. So a little bit of myself. So I'm from Argentina. I taught English as a foreign language there, all levels and 4 professions. And then I got married and came to the United States, married a US citizen, and I got the resident alien green card, which is actually pink. And after that, I got the permanent resident card, and finally, I became a citizen of the United States, which will be relevant, all of these, as we go along. At the University of Pittsburgh in Greensburg, I teach foreign language methods, Spanish Pedagogy Lab, Spanish 1, 2, 4, Conversation, Latinos in the United States, Spanish for law enforcement, and I just got a grant to create a new class, and the class is going to be called Community Engagement and Impact, and it will be around the Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations. It's a small, diverse campus, and we have a lot of workshops and events about social justice and diversity for faculty, staff, and students. In terms of my research that John already talked a little bit about it, so I actually created a game. I went into game design, and the name was Vida Peru. I use a gamification platform called Resli. Unfortunately, it's not available anymore, but there are other gamification platforms out there. So in terms of Vida Peru, just for you to get a little taste, it was a learning adventure game that I designed. And players would engage in a journey to ancient and modern Peru. They will explore the regions, and the purpose was for them for them to interact in quests, for them to discuss leisure activities. Along the go, they will earn points and badges and rewards with the goal of advancing in the ranks of global explorers. So if you want to know more about my dissertation, in your handout, there is a link to it if you're interested, or you can always email me if you want to know more about it. In terms of the agenda that you have in your handout, well, I'm going to talk in general about games. Then I'm going to go into games for language learning, then social justice education, and then I'm going to put everything together in digital games about social justice topics. And I will share with you some ideas for communicative activities for the world language classroom. At the end, we're going to discuss a little bit about the criteria for incorporating games, any games, not just digital, in the classroom. And of course, I will have time for you for questions. But don't forget to write down some takeaways. Maybe you will find something interesting that you will hear in the webinar. And I just want to let you know that I borrowed some concepts from previous webinars. That's the beauty of being the last, right? Beth and Marianne's, and I will mention some ideas, some concepts that they mentioned, so you can go and watch their webinars, again, the recordings. One important thing is that I don't know if you know, but February the 20th is World Day of Social Justice. So if you have not created any lesson on social justice, well, this will be probably a good opportunity to use that day or that week to create something for your classes. So let's start with game. What is a game? So games are about problem solving with a playful disposition. And this is a quote from Sykes and Reinhardt, Julie Sykes and Jonathan Reinhardt, and the resource, the link is in your handout. So some of the characteristics of games that you play, I play: voluntary play, rules, effort, challenge, there are goals, there are outcomes in the game, and obviously rewarding systems. Might be points or might be other things that are going to be your rewards in a game. But then how are these games related to learning? Well, we all know that gameplay is definitely a social practice, but it's also a new form of literacy and a model for the design of game-informed pedagogy. That's where we come in. So game literacy, if you're interested in reading more about this concept, Guy has a book, What Video Games Have to Teach You About Learning and Literacy. That's, of course, is in your resources in the handout. And he defines game literacy as the ability to play, understand, and learn through games. Some of the elements of game design are, for example, story, collaboration, competition, levels, rewards, scoring, etc. Many design elements that you can see on the screen. So in this book that Julie Sykes and Jonathan Reinhardt wrote, Language at Play, I am grabbing lots of concepts that I'm going to share with you now. So game-mediated teaching and learning of a foreign second language, we're going to classify this in two areas: game-enhanced and game-based. What is game-enhanced? It means when we apply vernacular games in our teaching. And these games are not designed for educational purposes. They're produced around the world. They might come in many languages. They can be played on your iPad or the computer. And examples are, for example, Pokemon Go, Sims, and other games out there. Minecraft could be another one. But then we have what we call the game-based area, where we use games that are designed intentionally for teaching and learning a foreign language. And at the center, we have Duolingo that we have probably all used at some point with our students. But there are other ones. Conjuguemos is the one that I use as a website, and I use it for vocabulary practice or for verb conjugation practice, but there are also listening activities, very nice ones. Duolingo, if you have not checked it recently, has stories, podcasts, and other apps here, Mondly, Drops, Memrise. They're very similar to Duolingo, so you might check them out. And then we have the game-based learning websites and apps that, of course, you might have used at some point, Kahoot or Quizlet Live. Well, these apps, I call them shells because they are games, but we have to put the content for them to be real games, right? So we call them shells because they need your content to go in there. And we're not going to be discussing these ones in particular today. We're going to talk about other ones. So digital games then are being recognized as new contexts and means for language learning. We need to take advantage of games because they help us learn. They help us teach and for students learn a new language. So something interesting for you to know is that there is a taxonomy alignment for gaming. So we can use Bloom's taxonomy to classify the games that we encounter. And obviously, you can see the parallel here that we start with games that will help students remember things, up to the top level where they engage in simulation games, where they can create things. And Minecraft is a very good example of that, where they create an environment inside the game. So we'll come back to this taxonomy as we learn about the games I want to show you today. So this is another interesting slide for you to remember, that the game mechanic could be memorization, judgment, consequence, strategy, exploration, or simulation, right? That aligns with Bloom's taxonomy from remember, low level, up to create, high level, and the skill sets. The skill sets will help you create your language objectives, the language functions that you need your students to be doing. It could be describe or identify for a memorization game, up to construct or design, invent, prepare for a game that's simulation. And what are these wraparound activities? These are activities that are related to gameplay, but that can happen before, during, or after gameplay. So these wraparound activities can definitely be aligned with the standards, because these are the activities that you are going to make them explicitly aligned with the linguistic or cultural content that you want to teach in your lesson. See? So wraparound activities, but they are aligned with the standards. So I'm going to turn the chapter here for a little bit to bring back a concept that Beth actually mentioned in her webinar, and it's also highlighted in her book. Social justice is one definition by Sonia Nieto. It's a philosophy, an approach, and actions that embody treating all people with fairness, respect, dignity, and generosity. It's one definition, but this one is really, really powerful. There are many other definitions, but this is the one that I picked for you today. And what are these components of social justice education? So this is a framework by Hackman. And Hackman outlines 5 major aspects of social justice education. One is content mastery that includes factual information, historical contextualization, and a macro to micro analysis of issues. Critical thinking and analysis of oppression is because educators must include information from multiple perspectives, open students' minds to a broader range of experiences, analyze the effects of power and oppression, and inquire into what alternatives exist with respect to the current dominant view of reality of an issue. Personal reflection. It's for teachers and students, where they must critically evaluate themselves with particular focus on themes related to identity and oppression. Action and social change. Students are aware of, intend to, or do take action in specific ways inside the classroom and out. This gives students a powerful method for overcoming paralysis, fear, and powerlessness. And the awareness of multicultural group dynamics, the circle. Classrooms must create safe spaces for dialogue amongst people of various identities. These come from Hackman, and I gave you a link in your handout to dig deeper into these concepts. So these issues that are prevalent, that are around us, and they have been raised constantly by the news, entertainment industries, include racism, poverty, hunger, civil rights, and so many more. Some of these issues are going to be issues that will be part of the games that I'm going to show you tonight. Cassie Glynn, in a webinar she presented, she talked about these issues by themes: nationalities or countries of origin, families, etc. The ones that are highlighted with the arrow are the ones that you're going to be seeing in the games that I'm going to share with you today. So immigrants to the US and their voices, refugees, how or why people come to the US. And another one would be food deserts, access to food, access to clean water. So by themes. But Cassie also gave us an idea on how you can see these issues by the P's, right? The products, the practices, and perspectives, right? So the product could be how access to clean water affects developing countries and communities. Maybe someone wrote a paper about it or created a video about it. Or immigration laws, that's a product because it's something that it could be tangible or intangible, but if there's an immigration law, that's a product. What's a practice? It could be activist movements and how they achieve their goals, or ways communities express themselves in the face of oppression. And what's a perspective? Beliefs about the humanity of individual groups and how that affects their access to employment, or the way politicians and political writers express beliefs through speeches. It could be media articles as well. So then there are what we call serious games. That these games, not like Pokemon Go or Minecraft, but these games are being designed with a primary purpose other than pure entertainment. And this serious adjective connects these games to, it could be healthcare or education, immigration, etc. So the elements that ensure that a serious game works properly and is effective is, for example, a story. It has gamification elements that we mentioned before, rewards, time, etc. There should be immediate and individualized feedback. A simulation, because it's not real life, right? But the game developers try to replicate a problem that happens in real life. And the main goal of all these serious games is to learn about that problem that they are discussing. What are the advantages? Well, they increase engagement and motivation like any other game. They improve memorization and retention. Students will remember that topic. They facilitate real and safe practice, right? Because they are in the game, that's safe. They also facilitate profound reflection on those topics raised by the games. And overall, the whole point is to make the world a better place. It's really not easy to create a serious game. It does require a lot of talent, a lot of time, and a lot of money. So these are the examples of digital games about social justice topics that I'm going to share with you tonight. One is Immigration Nation. Another one is Against All Odds. And the third one would be Third World Farmer. There are more games in your handout as resources. Games for Change is a wonderful website to find more games. Some of them, most of them are free. These three are free. But other ones, they might cost a little bit because, like we said, it costs a lot of money to create them in the first place. Another website is Games for Sustainability, linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. And there's another website that I found very, very interesting, Dignity Learning Games. And again, you have those links in your handout. And as we discuss these games, I'm going to show you the alignment of that game within Bloom's taxonomy. And at the same time, we're going to get into that framework, that Hackman framework, where we can design interpretive activities based on the information provided by the game, interpersonal activities for critical analysis, personal reflection, and what can students do for presentational activities, including those tools for action, for social change. What can they do, right? And all of this has to be student-centered and a respectful environment. That's so important. So let's get started with the first one, Immigration Nation. It's a fun, interactive online game that teaches students about the paths to American naturalization and citizenship. Students are presented with residents that will come in boats, and they will arrive in America, and they must decide, the players, whether each person is eligible to live in the United States or not. And if so, which immigration rule applies. So in the process, this is how students will learn about immigration laws, path to citizenship, etc. This game is free. It's available on the iCivics website. It can be played online on the computer, or it can be downloaded as an app from the App Store or Google Play. It's geared for middle and high school students, but I have played it with my college students. It's available in English and Spanish only. Sorry if you're teaching another language, but you might be able to take advantage of resources or ideas, even if you don't teach with this game, but ideas to teach about immigration. And the website provides lots of teaching resources as well that I will highlight for you here. In terms of the 5 C's, it's very straightforward here that immigration laws, that's part of the one of the 3 P's, right? The product. Community and resource centers where immigrants with people in charge of the resource centers interact, that's practice. And anything you can read or hear by politicians or the media about immigration, that becomes a perspective, right? And the connection is definitely the social studies. So I'm going to give you a walkthrough. We're not going to be playing the game tonight, but I encourage you to play the game at some point. So this is the harbor that the game gives you. And there are 5 areas in the harbor where you can send the boats, right? The people coming to the harbor. They might be born in the US, they might have permission to work, they might have citizen parents, they might be married to a citizen, like it was my situation, or they might be seeking refuge. And if it doesn't apply to the person arriving to the harbor, you can deny entry in the game. And that's how you send these boats to different areas in the harbor. So as soon as you get on the game, it will ask you or the students to register or not. If you're going to be playing the game in many classes, I would suggest that you have them register, right? So they can go back to the game in all those classes. Today, I'm going to say just no for us. So the game then has credits, and you can see there that many educators and many instructional technologies have cooperated to create this game. Jugar en Español. If you want to play it in Spanish, that's where you click. And then there are some choices with audio and music and voice, because you can hear the people as they come to the harbor. I'll give you an example. But you can also turn that off, turn music off, and those are the choices. So let's start a new game. So you can choose the game mode. It could be classic or with puzzle. Today, I will choose the puzzle because I think it will be visually easy for you to see how it works. So that's how you draw a path for each boat, and then you watch them travel to the destination in the harbor. So this is the beginning of the game. Welcome to Immigration Bay. This is the first stop for people wishing to enter the United States. See the 5 harbors behind me. Each one accepts a different kind of traveler. Will you help me guide everyone to the right harbor? This is my helper, Liberty Bell. Now she's your helper too. So if students need help along the game, that's Liberty Bell, and that's the one who's going to help them with everything around the game. So let's talk to our first traveler. So at this point, I'm not going to pick Liberty Bell's help. So this is the first traveler. That's the boat. My name is Bryce Steenspring. I'm a musician, and I've been touring the world singing about how great it is to be born in the USA, which I was. My tour's over now, and I just want to be back in the US. And again, you can have the person speak so you can hear the English or the Spanish language here. And the other icon is, okay, this is where students will select where they think the traveler should go. And it will show all the possibilities, but here, obviously, born in the US is the choice. So yes, Bryce doesn't have to worry about naturalization because anyone born here is already a citizen. So you click continue, and that's how the student will, with the mouse, will drag the path, will draw the path for the boat to get to the right spot, right? And that's how they send the boat there. So at that point, the students will, if they made the right choice, they will get this, right? The level complete. And they're going to get all these notifications as soon as they send the boats to the right place. And they might have to deny entry at some point if the person doesn't fulfill the requirements, right? So in terms of the alignment with Bloom's taxonomy, this is a judgment game because there are questions and answers with correct and incorrect responses, see? So these are the language functions, estimate, explain, etc. Okay, so let's talk about the activities. So as a pre-game activity, I encourage you to play the game, right, multiple times and explore the game resources. The next thing is to teach essential vocabulary, right? What do they know about immigration laws? What do they want to know? That's the factual information. And during the game, you can create interpretive activities, and you might even want to use Kahoot or Goose Chase for those mini games activities. So what kind of activities you can create? So this comes straight from iCivics. So I'm just going to browse these ones so you get an idea. So choose the right word from the word trios, or maybe you can check if the person meets a requirement to live in the United States, or write the word from a word bank that best matches a description. Maybe here you read the description and you decide if the person is eligible to live in the US or not. So again, everything from the website. Maybe there will be some multiple choice questions. Maybe there will be some true-false questions. Matching a graphic with, okay, what when you see citizen parents born in the US, but then you can evolve into maybe writing more or discussing more, which hardware each image represents, and write your notes, or maybe you can say what you think on the lines. Change the story. Maybe this person came to the Harvard with a different story, but how can students rewrite the story so the person becomes eligible to enter the US? The American dream. Kristen is from Norway, wants to live in the US. So what can we say about Kristen in her story as she is an adult now and wants to make a move and come to live in the United States? So this is where they can create a story. So during the game, like we said before, there are some other things that you could do with your students in that Hackman framework, like discussing with tools for critical analysis or personal reflection. And this is where Marianne in her webinar talked about circles, talked about Kiva, QFT, and I took some notes for you today. So Kiva is a technique that provides a structured group experience that encourages critical reflection and self-analysis. QFT is question, focus, technique. So this is when you design a question, focus, and then you introduce the rules, and then produce more questions and improve the questions and polish, etc., etc. So this came from Marianne. So if you have questions about these techniques, she's the one to to ask. And after the game, presentational activities that might bring engagement and an opportunity for action to bring social change. So for example, these might be ideas for the debrief or for the discussion. How do you feel? What did you learn? How does this relate to, and it might be a story in the news, what if, what next? Presentational activities could be you can invite immigrants to from your community to share their experiences. And I am an immigrant, so I am in the position to share my experience with my students. That's why it was relevant at the beginning that I share with you my story. Maybe become a volunteer in community resources centers that advocate for immigrants. And I know in Pittsburgh there's one. So then that's a possibility for the students to do that. So the game has many other resources, and I'd encourage you to look for them. Their web quests, their lesson plans ready to go. This one, Pathway to Citizenship for high school. So everything that I shared today with you in terms of activities, they are coming from that website, but you can adapt to your own lessons. So that was Immigration Nation. Let's talk about now a different game called Third World Farmer. This is a simulation, more like a game, although there is a winning situation that I'm going to describe later. It lets you experience some of the hardships of farming in a poor country. This simulation is meant to be both educational and slightly provocative, with the sole intent of making people think about this topic and hopefully realize that each of us can make a difference in helping to end poverty. It is also a free game. You can play it online, you can download as an app for Google Play. It's for middle, high school, but definitely again, college. I have played this game many times because I always want to get to that win situation, and it's not easy. It comes in 9 languages, so all the languages that you can see on the screen, you can play the game. And interesting, on the website says, if you're interested in helping us translate Third World Farmer into your own native language, contact us. What an opportunity. There's teaching resources, and there are tools for taking action that I'm going to show you. So this is a game that it's hard to explain in 10 minutes. That's my idea. But some of the concepts I'm going to share with you. So for example, the family overview. You can change the name of the people, the family members, but there are some stats about them. And during the game, if they get sick, for example, you can choose to give them medicine, for example, or maybe they have to leave the farm to go, I don't know, just get another job, etc. So this is a concept, family overview, and there's the annual report, because what the game does, it puts you in this year, right? Where it tells you this is the family, you have this much money, and then you have choices to buy animals or to start, your chicken area. You can grow corn, you can buy or build a barn, etc. So, and based on your choices is how you will do during that year. So when you click that play button, that arrow, the game makes you go through that year. And there might be events that happens in that year during the game, like could be chicken disease and you lose all your chicken. So that's how the game progresses. So let me give you a few of the things you could do. You can sell items if you need money to feed your family. You can grow, like I said, you can grow corn or wheat or cotton, peanut. You can have chicken or pig, and the game will tell you where you're going to place those animals. You can buy some tools that will help you, right, with your farm: shovel, scythe, plow, etc. you can have buildings. So for example, if you want to have the pigs, they might need the well, they might need the barn. So if you're going to have pigs, then that's what you need to have for them. And there might be events. So that's very interesting about the game. So let's say you buy animals that you want to have in your farm because you have the money. The game starts you with money, and then you decide I'm going to just use the money to grow corn, etc., etc. But then after you click play and the game runs you through the year, what happened in that year? You might have had, like I said, chicken disease, or a dry season, or a fire, right? And then at that point you realize, oh my goodness, I lost money, I lost all my chicken, I lost the crops. What happens? And then you might have a little extra money to, okay, what's going to happen next year? What are the choices that I'm going to have now? Some events could be, I don't know, guerrillas or sickness in the family. That happened to me as I played the game many times, because I have to choose. I have to get medicine. I cannot buy any more stuff. So that happens in the game. And there are some other special events. And this is where the dilemmas come, right? Because there might be opportunities for the family in your game to make money in a way that's controversial, problematic, unethical, dangerous. And actually many of the developing countries, they probably go through these dilemmas as well. So that's why it's thought-provoking, because you might have your students encounter those dilemmas as well. And it could be like, for example, growing opium or migrate to a city, things like that, or performing for tourists. So those things appear in this game. But there are also projects, and they might represent improvements to the farm, the society, and they might be needed in order to break that cycle of poverty and guarantee a better future, not only for the family, the farming family, but the local community. So, and at that point, if you have enough money and you want to invest in one of those projects, then you might have a chance to win the game. And what's the winning state is when you have managed to provide your family and the local area with a much brighter future, because you have probably managed to end poverty for that particular family, that particular community. So game over, but it's a winning situation. I have not got to that point. I've played the game many times, and because of the choices. Sometimes you say, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to do that, but there's hope there, right? In the end, there is hope. So in terms of the alignment, we consider this game exploration because it's non-linear branching, multiple outcomes based on decisions. So students in activities, they will be able to judge or measure or predict, assess, estimate, etc. So definitely pre-game, watch the tutorial, read the manual, and it comes in English and Spanish, and play the game multiple times, because that's the way you're going to get more an idea of how it works. The theme is food deserts, access to food, access to clean water, right? So the manual have the concepts and content that I shared with you very briefly. In terms of the communicative activities, the essential vocabulary would be, to me, what are third world countries? So I went to this website, nationsonline.org, and I found that you can third world countries in 5 areas. They could be the ones because political rights and civil liberties are, they have those problems. The gross national income, human development, poverty, and press freedom. And these are examples of countries that I found that were aligned with those issues, right? But there are more. During the game, besides the interpretive activities, I'm going to just give you a little bit of what the website provides. Remember those tools for critical analysis and personal reflection, those interpersonal activities. And what can we say about presentational activities? Let's take a look. So these are, again, from the game. Not only the pre-game question, what are the hardships that might face a small farmer in a developing country? Could be a question. Have students play the game and take notes of what they did, like, for example, the communications build, or the crop insurance, the school build, etc., and what they learned from those rounds. And the post-game analysis could be, well, what are some of the hardships you come up against, and what are the choices that you were forced to make? What actions helped your situation? So this is an idea from the game. And other questions could be, explain some of the things you decided to spend your money on in the game and why. What were some of the challenges your family faced as the years went on? And even deeper questions, I'm going to just pick a few from here. Did you enjoy playing the game? Explain. How did playing this game make you feel? Explain. Did members of your family die, and what caused that? Do you think this could happen in the real world as well? Explain. Was it easy or hard to make a lot of money in this game? Why? What would have made it easier or harder? So many good questions. Or even these ones. For example, does the game depict stereotypes rather than realities? Why are some countries very poor and others very rich? And again, you're going to have this PowerPoint, of course, and the resources. Everything comes from the game. But this is definitely critical analysis and personal reflection. But to take action, this game provides you with resources. So it gives you a taste of what reality can be like in some parts of the world. But the good news is that we can make a personal difference. For example, United Nations Children's Fund, there's a link there inside the game where you can volunteer, where you can speak out, where you can take a stand. Another source is World Food Program, and Beth also mentioned this game in her webinar, Free Rice, where you play this game to help fight hunger. It might be a vocabulary quiz, but once you play and you get that the questions right, then that's how you help fight hunger. So these are very specific ways. All right, so we put that game on a side, and now let's talk about our last game tonight, Against All Odds. So this is also a simulation that was developed to teach about the plight of political refugees. While playing the game, the player takes the role of a refugee who's persecuted, forced to leave his native country, and finally seeks asylum. There are 12 steps that the player takes in this game. The first 4 deal with escaping. The next 4 with trying to establishing refugee status in a host country. And the final 4 trying to adjust to life in a new land. So as the player travels from step to step, there are going to be obstacles. There could be language barriers, intolerance, etc. This game is free. It's web-based. It can be played for middle school, high school, college. For now, it is only available in 4 languages: German, Greek, Icelandic, Spanish. It used to be available in 16 languages, but there were technical problems. I found that, and they're bringing all the other languages back. So stay tuned, because your language will be there, like French or Italian, English, obviously. It was created in Sweden by the United Nations Refugee Agency. So it started there and won awards there. It has teaching resources and tools for taking action. So because I could get the Spanish part of it, if there's Spanish on my slide, I will tell you briefly what it is. So the first one is you choose your identity. So that's where you write your name, and you can register to this game to come back to it, in different classes, or you can just play without registering. So these are the 12 areas, right? But today, I'm just going to walk you through very briefly on the part of a new life, right? And from there, just one of the steps. So the step is this person has already accepted as a refugee, and they gave asylum. So, but she's looking for a job, and the summer is coming, and she needs money. So that's this section. So the first thing she's going to do is decide the letter that she's going to use to present at the interview, and she's going to put the picture in that. Well, and again, you put the picture in that letter. And this one is, I'm happy, I'm a happy person, I like people, I hope you can help me get a job. So then she needs to choose the clothes that she's going to wear for the interview. I picked that one because I was my style probably. And then if she's happy with it, if the player is happy with that, then you go straight to the interview. So here's the interview, and there are 3 people there. So one is saying, "Oh, you look so nervous. Poor you, poor girl. Oh, I'm here, and they are going to give me an interview. It's the first time I get one. This is the first time I come to an interview. So time for her. Welcome. Let's ask you a few questions. One is, have you had a job before, like a temporary job?" I answer no. What was your school? I mean, your studies. Were you good? Average. Do you speak Spanish very well? Do you have references? I put no. Okay, so these are the choices we have for you. One is to help clean here in the park, or you can help in the roller coaster. So I said, I want to be the helper. And it's not what you wanted, because they say, "Oh, sorry, but this job is for someone else, but you have this job to help clean the park." There you have it. So she did not qualify for the job that she wanted to do. So that's an obstacle. That's discrimination, right? Okay, so the choice is you go play a game, or you can continue with another step. So that's a simulation, show you what it was like. So in terms of Bloom's, this is a consequence game, right? Because there's cause and effect based on decisions. Some decisions might have been good, bad, best, right? So again, the theme is refugees, human rights. My advice is to play the game multiple times, explore the game resources, and what is the essential vocabulary that you need to teach? What do they know about refugees, human rights? What do they want to know? So the game, they have resources, and they provide you with activities that you can design around the human rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. For example, okay, these are my 10 human rights that I choose, and maybe what would happen if I lose one of those rights? That would be one activity to have your students think about it. How about the tools for critical analysis or in personal reflection? There are some ideas. Maybe there will be activities, individual activities, where the students will discuss different attitudes towards refugees. Another activity that you can find in the game is maybe create an understanding of prejudice that people have against or towards refugees. Debates. Do you think you can help refugees overcome their feelings of anxiety, loss, inferiority, exclusion? So many questions that you can have your students debate. And in terms of presentational activities, one could be, how about if we create pamphlets of different people who might come to the US seeking asylum, and the refugees. And maybe you can have a student, or you or maybe a colleague will act as the person giving the interview for a job, and how the students could have that role play on things that they might be refugees might ask when they go for a job interview, and how the person responding to the interview could have that, I don't know, discrimination against them because maybe the language, they don't speak the language, English, etc. So many choices here. So more ideas for activities actually you are going to find in Words and Actions. That's a book that Beth Wassel, Pamela Wesley, and Cassandra Glynn wrote. And actually I found that this game, Against All Odds, was highlighted there somewhere towards the end of the book. And Take Action, this game, this simulation, provides you with links to organizations working with issues about refugees and human rights. For example, the UN Refugee Agency, o en español, la Agencia de la ONU para los Refugiados. So, what do you need to do in terms of the criteria? And here's the book that I highly recommend by Leslie Grant and Dave McAlpin, that it's the keys to strategies for language instruction. And I found these criteria for games in the classroom very appealing to me. Does the purpose of the game relate to the unit goals? Are the language skills being practiced, the skills learners need at this point in the unit? How does this activity advance students' learning? Will the activity yield any information about the learner's understanding of the culture and use of the target language? Very good criteria, right? So this is where you can decide what kind of games you will bring to the classroom, the cultural content you want your students to learn about, the social justice issue that you want your students to learn about. So everything in the handout, everything is in the handout, resources and references, and remember, more games. So at this point, if you heard about something, hopefully something that it's a takeaway for you, an idea that you can implement tomorrow, this week, or for on February 20th for the World Day of Social Justice, go ahead. So I'm now ready to take questions, if there are any questions.
So Leslie, would you like to ask the first question that we have on our board?
Sure. There were two questions related to Immigration Nation, Sylvie. One was a question about, does it get updated when changes in immigration policies happen? So are the rules updated to be accurate?
What I can say is that the links to those websites are up to date. I don't think the game has been updated up to last week, but they are pretty accurate in terms of general description of the immigration rules, like when you are married to a citizen, when you're seeking asylum, etc. But if there's more information in terms of more accuracy, the real immigration rules, you can always go to the government office, right? And those links are provided in the website. So yes, those links are updated.
Thanks to Caitlin Thomas for that question. And she had a second one, wondering about if the immigration theme is something that she refers to as reductive, but I think for me, and Caitlin can tell me if I'm interpreting it correctly, especially when you're talking about undocumented immigrants here in the US. So is that a touchy subject for kids to address?
It's definitely a touchy subject. So let me give you a little bit of what happened to me. So I'm teaching the class Latinos in the United States. I had a student whose family came to the US, not legally. And she was, that particular student, she was pretty open to share her story. So I think we always need to read the room, right? So we need to make sure that we make students feel comfortable. If she didn't want to share that story, I would have probably respected that. But she said she did want to hear. So again, we need to let students come up to us if they want to share something about their stories. There's always other resources that we can explore for that, for undocumented immigrants. But of course, these topics are hard to discuss in the classroom. That's why, well, that's the reason we need to discuss them with very good care and respect. And that's how, we need to handle that.
Awesome, thank you. And you need to know that lots of people are thanking you in the questions, and I'm going to hand it over to Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope you learned something and that you can apply. your classroom situation.
Okay, a couple of questions have come in about games for younger learners. For example, elementary students or students at the novice language levels.
Mm-hmm. So I knew that was going to be a question I was going to get. So if you go to the resources, there are, or if you want to reach out to me directly, there's one game, Sustainable Sean the Sheep, and there are very, very good games there for obviously for recycling and sustainability. I have other games in apps for novice learners. In Spanish, Reme, La Amiga del Reciclaje for recycling, another one for natural disasters. And those games, the language level is obviously more, geared for a novice learner. So there are games out there. There's another one I really like. It's on my iPad, and I don't have my iPad right here with me. Cloud Chasers. It costs $4. It's very beautiful in terms of immigration. It's a girl who's trying to cross the border, and the language is, again, appropriate for novice. I think the game is in Spanish, French, German, I forget, but it's called Cloud Chasers. So if you want to reach out to me directly, I can give you more information about them. There are lots of games. I just share the ones that I found more appropriate for most of the audience.
Great. And another question we've gotten is these are all games students play alone, or
No.
are there games that students play together?
No, you can choose. Actually, there are some suggestions in these websites. You can actually project your screen and maybe play together as a class, especially if you think the language might be too much for the students. So you can pause the game there and then discuss and maybe dissect the question in a way that the students will understand. Or you can have pairs or groups of students. So in class, when I played it, well, in the college classroom, I had 2 or 3 students go play Immigration Nation, for example, because they will help each other with the language. So the choice is yours. I mean, the teacher can choose. Like I said, you can project the game on your screen. Actually, if you're teaching virtually, you can actually share your screen and have your students decide what should this person do. Go here, where does the boat go, or how do we answer that? Choice is yours.
Sylvie, we had an interesting question about, I mean, they're all interesting, but this was regarding coding for the games and how might one go about securing a program or a programmer to create a game that they might have in mind?
So in terms of game design, that's where the question goes, I think. So
yeah,
who wants to create the game?
About programming themselves, or another question asked about securing a programmer to create a game.
I don't know if I can answer this question. So I have different thoughts here. One is if the students want to create a game, there is this platform Breakout EDU. Actually, the teacher could create a game that is social justice oriented game in Breakout EDU, or actually there's a choice there for students to create the games as well. So that will be one route for the question. Another route is securing a programmer. Well, I don't know about that. It might be possible that in your school, in that school, there will be instructional technologies person with, programming skills who might get, you can give suggestions or maybe the framework, the story for the program, and that person could create the game for you. I don't know if I answered your question, but feel free to reach out to me because I know in the University of Pittsburgh, there was a department who contracted a programmer to create a simulation. I think it was for medicine, a simulation for students to learn. You know, it was a serious game, a serious simulation, but with the purpose of learning medicine, I don't know, procedures, I guess.
So
And-
Sylvie, believe it or not, we're already at 8 o'clock. And so we want to thank you for your time and sharing
You're
all these
welcome.
amazing ideas. I will tell you that there's lots of people putting things in the question, thanking you for your organization and the great content that you put together. And we're going to hand it back to John for closing remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie and Debbie, for moderating. And thank you, Sylvie, for that very informative presentation. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, it has been recorded, and the recording will be made available on our website tomorrow. If you'd like to make a contribution to help support our webinar, please visit nectfl.org/donate. New York State teachers who need proof of attendance for CTLE credit, please use the links provided on our website on the webinars page. Teachers in other states may use the same links, but please consult your local district and/or state associations regarding documenting PD hours. On behalf of the Northeast Conference Board of Directors, thank you very much for attending this evening's webinar. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll be seeing you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.